Kickin' hyperbull, poetry is on the way. Kickin' hyperbull, the poetry kettle is whistling, yay. Kickin' hyperbull, poetry and life and death and discussion. Sometimes hyperbole, sometimes hyperbull, and cake poetry is on the way.
Ta-da! We're here again.
Hello. Yay, here we are again. We made
September. I had to think for a minute. What month is this even?
Oh, I should put on my tiara. It's birthday month at our house. Here we
That's
go. I don't know
right.
how long I'll keep it on, but yeah, we have in the space of 12 days, starting in mid-September, we have my birthday, the cat's birthday, my husband's birthday, and my son's birthday, and that's all the heartbeats in the house. So it's going to be a lot of cake. It's going to be a lot of Jerusalem Cafe, I'm thinking. That's where I'm going on my birthday.
Jerusalem Cafe. Where is that? Is that here?
Okay. There's the original one, if you know the Kansas City area world, is in Westport. And then they have built a new sort of faster food version in Independence by Costco. So like across the street from Costco. So they've got a lot of the really good stuff, but it's more of a it's not like a drive-through or anything, but it's ready faster and it's less of a kind of fancy sit-down place. The one in Westport has more of a kind of fancy sit-down vibe. And so that's going to be good. Yeah, they've got like the falafel and the baba ganoush and the gyros. And my very favorite thing is, this is so dorky, the lentil soup and the dolma, which are the stuffed grape
Oh, yeah. Love those.
My word.
We will have to check that out. So you said that's by the Costco?
Yeah. Okay. So if you're like at Costco, across on the other side of that, like 4-lane or 6-lane street or whatever, is like a strip mall for lack of a better
what you're talking
term.
about.
And it's in there. It's in there.
Okay.
So,
I'm going to check that out.
It's really
I
good.
will check that out. We officially have no car now. Boom.
Oh,
the old truck died. So, but we looked at the bus schedule. I was like, because we're not going to get a car now. If we wind up moving to Brazil, what do we need a car here for?
True.
So
yeah,
exactly. Hold on. We keep finding excuses not to have a car.
Yeah,
it's pretty nice actually. I'm liking it.
I would love that. I love how many places you all can walk to. I think pretty much the exception is a grocery store, at least if you're brutally pared down. You know, you've got the library and the pottery place. You know?
I know. What else do you need?
And the coffee. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
and we could. Like, I can't remember where it is, but on 24, I can't remember the name of it, but there is that grocery store down there that's actually
Apple
pretty
Market.
close. No, it's the other way, but it's like the Apple Market, like one of those really tiny.
I'm trying to picture it. Yeah, because I'm usually the other way.
Yeah, next to Ace Hardware. You know what I'm talking about? There's
like across from Chrisman High School or something. Or,
yeah,
that's not too far. Yeah.
Yeah. So if I was desperate, I could just walk there. But Walmart delivers, so
that's what I was thinking. I was like, but since COVID and maybe before, but now everybody's got it on the radar that they have got a lot more delivery practice. So that's
I know.
Good.
And hey, Pete. Pete just joined us. Hello, Pete.
Hey, Pete. Here we are.
We're just having a discussion about local American
groceries,
environment.
Yeah,
geography.
The infrastructure is frustrating because you almost have to have a car, but Angela is beautifully, blissfully thumbing her nose at that. So
I thumb my nose at the requirement to be American and have an automobile.
Yeah, it's good. It's like my husband works in Lee Summit, so he would probably get to the point where he would ride his bike there, but we would both fear for his safety because of the infrastructure. It's not very friendly.
Yeah. I used to ride my bike to work. This actually, as I think about it, there's been many times in my life I've refused to own a car. So I'm going to say this is just a theme with me.
Yeah, I love that. I used to think about that all the time because I watched Murder, She Wrote, and like Jessica Fletcher was the same way. Oh no, I'm not getting a car. And she'd ride her bike everywhere. But
so
sometimes
funny.
you have to get like rides with people. But come on, she was Jessica Fletcher. Are you not going to give her a ride? She's wonderful. So
I know, right? So, and that's what I put out to the world. Are you not going to give me a ride, world? Look at me. Do I look scary? Never mind the dream that we were talking about.
Yeah, we have dreams to share. That was fun. We were having dream chat before we came on live, and so That's okay. I'll start us off. I'm gonna read my dream and then you tell yours. Okay.
All right.
I wrote it down, the one that I had last night. Also, I have a fan blowing on me because I was like insisting on I'm putting up all my Halloween mugs before we start, and then I was like, "It's hot." So I look like I'm in like a toothpaste commercial with the fan blowing my hair. Okay. This is my poetry on the moon dream. It's relevant. You'll see. I was somewhere far away, such as the moon, beside a handful of people swimming in a pool and speaking Japanese. Without thinking, I handed one of them my phone and she began scrolling in the pool. I realized it was 1:30, time to get on the pre-poetry video call with Angela. But the people in the pool were my ride. I didn't have a ride. So I got my phone back and I walked some long moon base hallways. I was on the moon and I needed my ride. But anyway, I was walking these long moon base hallways to search for an empty classroom. I was already late. I ended up in a sort of rec room at the end of the line, and they had a television, oak beams, pottery shelves. But the classrooms were full. So I turned to wander off and ran into someone I knew. Angela, the death artist from the television series Bones. I don't really know her, but in the dream, you know.
It's a dream.
But and she also played a young astronaut in season 2 of For All Mankind, which is why I've been dreaming about being on the moon to do poetry. So she was distraught about some supernatural force that was attached to her and destroying the lives of all of her loved ones. And she needed me to listen to her. I couldn't abandon her in her turmoil, and I knew I would miss poetry, and it felt it would even be dismissive toward haunted Angela if I paused to text poetry Angela about this situation. What a scene. So that was my dream. Poetry on the moon last night. Never happened because
I would say if it ever does happen, though, invite her to come on poetry with us.
Yes. Poetry it out, girl.
Dream poets, moon poets, all welcome.
Yeah.
Haunted poets.
Absolutely. Especially haunted poets.
Yeah, we especially.
Clean.
Next month is going to be our Halloween month.
Mm-hmm.
So
I
I'm
put my
actually
mugs
like,
up.
yeah, we should think of something to do special.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
I'm going to try to get my
will.
Halloween tree up, but yes.
We'll think of something. All the wheels will turn. The muses will whisper what we are to do to make
probably
it
be something crazy.
Could be. We have done it in the cemetery before, the poetry. That is.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so I thought. All right. The wheels are turned. Now, tell us about your dream that was.
I was not as motivated to write mine into a poem. So I'll just tell you, it was just a weird dream that has had me questioning who am I really and how nice am I really?
I love those.
In my dream, though, I think I was fighting Lucius Malfoy from Harry Potter. At least he looked like him. And it was a friendly fight, and we were doing magics at each other. So we were doing the whole, and his his magic was meeting mine, and then I kind of went like, oh, this is like taking too long, and so this is a dream. Decide I'm going to just bite him and rip his throat out, and so I savagely grab onto him and just like, ah. But in real life, I guess I yelled something like, and woke my husband up. Apparently I was like yelling, and I woke up with my pillow in my mouth and I was viciously biting my pillow. But the part that disturbs me is I was so disappointed when I was like, oh, it's my pillow, and that was a dream. And so
it's just a dream.
I've been like, do I want to bite somebody's throat? I mean,
you were probably just disappointed at the the magic that you weren't doing.
We'll go with that. Yeah, I don't have magic powers like that. So, that was it. Not that I would ever. Though, when I went vegetarian, maybe it means I need more meat in my diet. Because years ago, I tried to go vegetarian. And I was on a bus trip, pregnant. I think the pregnancy is what was the key. And I was staring out the window at the nice bucolic, all the cows in the field. And then I realized I was having this fantasy of chasing cows down as this pregnant woman. I mean, that's the vision, is giant belly. And I'm like, I'm chasing the cows down, and I'm werewolf style demolishing them. And
the body tells you. Yeah.
That's what I was like. I was like, oh, wait, what am I thinking? This is not a good thing for a vegetarian technically to be fantasizing about. And so I told my husband at the time, I think I need a hamburger. So we stopped, ate hamburgers. I did not have those lurid fantasies anymore.
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta listen to what the body is manifesting in your mind. That's
Exactly. So
oh man.
these are where I like question myself. If there's a zombie apocalypse and I turn into a zombie, I will probably be an enthusiastic zombie. I'm just saying, like,
That's
finally, I
good.
get to bite somebody.
You'll adapt. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Some say that it's some of like smoking and things like that, and so I'm saying maybe this could also transfer to biting because it's oral.
Yeah.
And some people say that the hardest thing for people to quit about smoking is the act of smoking because it's like a sucking motion, which is like the first motion you perform as a human being.
Oh, that's true.
Like
Yeah.
to find out about the world and to experience, some pleasant sensation. And
Yeah.
so, could be just
Maybe
primal.
it
That
could.
was
We'll go with that.
your gift.
I might ask my mom if I was a biter in like.
I was. I
Were
was.
you?
Oh, yes, I was. So, yeah, that's why I like smoking and I don't do it all that much, but I like it when I do it. And I also like food and I also like coffee. So it's just like, hey, what do you got?
Yeah.
I'm gonna use my mouth and
Yeah.
experience the world basically. So,
Yeah. I do get into tasting things I'm not supposed to taste, like a Rodin. Will not mention what museum that was, but I just really thought that was important at the time to taste a Rodin.
Angela Eureka Smith, you treasure. You treasure.
Yeah. I think the biggest challenge was the security guards were like right there on the other side of that Rodin. So it was kind of like a
Yeah, that's a challenge. And see that I thought I was being like, coy and daring when I put a Klaus poem in a coffee mug at Bed Bath and Beyond, but our Angela tasted a Rodin, everybody. Now that's living life right there.
well, yeah, there's always like this slight horror in me that one day I'll find out, like at said unnamed museum, it's
Yeah.
like the Rodin just started having this problem, and like
It
fell
grew
apart.
flesh-eating bacteria.
Yes.
So what did it taste like? Do you remember? I mean, I'm
Like a
sure you may
penny.
know.
Yeah, it was
Like a
very much like a
penny.
penny. So
Well, I don't know about Rodin, but I do know from stuff I've read that some of the pigments that they used for paint were ground up mummies, arsenic. So I mean, you were living dangerously, but I mean
yeah.
that's also living. You were being
Well,
alive.
it was
So
pre-COVID too. I don't know if I'd
that's
go
right.
around licking anything now.
But nobody's touched that in years.
It's
It's probably
true.
one of the safest things you could have lived.
There's probably like a hidden camera somewhere, like behind it, like where people like, let's see who's gonna go try to like either feel his butt or lick his
Yeah.
knee, or what are people gonna do back there where they think we're not watching them?
They pass gas on it. Yeah. That is a hoot. I enjoyed that.
All right. Well, I will read a poem real quick because that's what we're here for. It's not about a dream or anything interesting, but
Okay.
it is on Ladies of Horror. It's part of the Ladies of Horror Flash project. I'm going to share my screen. There we go. It's part of Nina Darkangela, who is one of our frequent people on here. We read her poetry a bunch, one of our favorite peoples. And she's got her Ladies of Horror prompt thing, which you're a part of too. And she sends us all a photograph. And this is my photograph for this month or for last month.
Ooh.
Wait,
like it.
no, it is. Yeah, it was August. That is technically last month now.
Ooh, I love
And
that
so,
sky.
yeah, and then we wite either a poem or a flash fiction story or something based on that, which is an acrostic. So this is the one that I wrote, and I'll put it up here. Oh, I guess it doesn't really get bigger. Anyways, that's the photo, and then I'll read the poem, which is called Remember. When all has gone dead, chill prairie winds whistling past the graveyard, think of me waiting. I wait for you and for spring. I wait for the thaw, and while I lay here in shallow grave of hoarfrost, rotting beneath hay, I remember you. When you have gone home to your family who now wait with warm, loving hearts, ignorant of you and your capabilities, they may never know just how good you are at pulling that wool over, at keeping secrets. Please remember me, past the graveyards, think. Warm prairie winds whistling. When life has returned, I will come for you.
Ooh,
That is
chilling.
that. I should have saved that for Halloween.
That's you will come up with another. I just know it. So, or you'll find another one that from before. That was very good. I enjoyed that.
Why, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Not a dream, but maybe a dream. Maybe it's a dream I
Maybe
just don't remember.
you just wonder what comes from like these deep inward places. Where did that come from? I love that. I love to ponder or just like let that question sit. Either
Yeah.
way, because it's such a fun process. Well, you were speaking of Nina, Dark Angela. I have one that she sent that I would have read last month and ran out of time. And also it's called From Ashes Angels Rise. This is the abridged
Ooh.
version. I also have the longer version and I only have part of it. So I'm gonna for now read the abridged version if I can find, well, I know I have it in my computer. I don't have it printed out. So maybe next time we'll trot out the longer version if she doesn't send us more things. So it's called From Ashes Angels Rise by Nina
Oh,
Dark Angela.
love the name.
I know, I do too. Stone fucking cold, an awareness that emanates from within. I've always believed the most grievous pain would come from what is held inside, from emotional wounds that take more than what forever is offering to heal. I was wrong. The worst of it is being empty, drained, a vacuous core, a dull resonating hollow that allows for nothing, not even the sting of its own frigid harshness.
Cool.
Thank you, Nina. Beautifully said. I believe I have felt that to a degree in times. And very nice. Yeah. In fact, where I have it underneath the unabridged version is exactly the same amount of poem that was. So I'll have to go back and find some more. But sorry it took so long to read that, but I've got it read and I'm glad I did. So
Awesome. Yeah. Bringing the darkness in here. I
yeah.
feel like we're kind of bringing in the Halloween season a
Yeah.
little early. This is the, wow. See, me and my words, foreshadowing, the
Yes,
foreshadowing of next month.
it is. It is. I just love that. I mean, it's still pretty warm out, but last night I will say, because I texted you last night from right now in Independence, since we're talking local, there is a yearly event going on. It always happens Labor Day weekend, ever since I can remember, and it's called Santa Calagon, because Independence, Missouri is the queen city of the trails, and that is the trails westward, like in the 1840s, 50s, whenever they were doing all that, back when there was, the move westward. And
When nobody
so
had a car. Nobody.
nope, wagon trains and all that jazz. And so there were 3 trails west, and that was Santa Fe, the California, and the Oregon Trail. So we have a fair called Santa Calagon Days, and it's going on right now. My son is in a scout troop that's been around since 1948, meeting in the same place that they've met since 1948. And one of their big fundraisers is to secure a parking lot. Like churches will say, you could use our parking lot, or they'll say, you can use our parking lot and give us a cut. Because every parking lot in Santa Calagon charges $10 for you to park, except for the ones from Troop 282, us, and they're $5. So people love to park in our parking lot. So our job is to, like, I was taking the money, my husband was backing people in, because if you back in, then it's easier to pull out in the dark when you're leaving, and you won't run over some kid who's excited and crossing the street. So, and then my son was kind of in charge of like being on the street and going, stuff, or also he would like put the string up when our parking lot was full and take it down when it wasn't and stuff. And it got really cool around 10 o'clock. It was like, I was like, I wish I had a jacket. I'm going to tomorrow night, because we're doing it all weekend except Monday. We're not. But the scout pants have, like, you can get the kind that has the pant part, the bottom part zips off so that it could be shorts. And I'm like, I'm bringing the zip on pant legs tomorrow night and putting those on. And
that's funny.
maybe I'll knit a sweater while I'm sitting here or something. But so yeah, I like this change where it like gets cool. They say the veil is thinner, getting closer to that whole realm for the winter.
As the day recedes, And
Yes.
then I guess right now, because we're totally nocturnal over here at our house, our day
Yeah.
gets longer.
It does. You will have more time to do whatever it is you are
Come up with more
accomplishing.
crazy projects,
That's
which
right. Yeah.
that's
Tell a
a
little.
funny story this morning.
Yes.
You know how like back in whatever month, a while ago, I was like, I'm going to write a novel.
Yes.
So I did. And then I was like halfway through, like, this is a freaking terrible idea. Like, why did I say I was going to do this? I'm in
You had a lot
literal
of
hell.
trials.
I'm in
Yeah.
self-imposed hell. I did this to
Ah.
myself. I can't even be mad at anybody. But I finished it. Well, about 2 weeks before I was done, a friend of mine, Frances, I'm going to call her out here, says, "Oh, there's this like really great screenplay opportunity, blah, blah, blah. Can you do you have a screenplay? Like you could write a screenplay out of In Eugenie, the novel that you're writing." Yes, I'm going to do that because like I'm not super exhausted and already crazy from the novel. Yeah. So then last month of August was screenplay month. So it was just like, da, 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 I'm going to do this. And halfway through, I'm like, why am I doing this? I'm in hell. And I did this to myself. Like, as she put it, we're hazing ourselves. We hazed ourselves just now. Like, that's what we did last month.
Yeah.
So then last night we're like, donezo. It's in, everything is submitted. Now it's just waiting to find out what happens. And then I came across this thing about an Asian, because she's Asian as well. And so we both keep doing the BIPOC thing, like trying to promote BIPOC voices. And it is called Disorient, DIS Orient.
Aha.
And
Yeah.
it's a film festival in Oregon. And I was like, well, this is cool. Here, this is Oregon. And she lives in Oregon. Sent it
Yeah.
to her. And my goodness, you can submit a film if you just happen to have a
If you just
film.
have one lying around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I sent it to her and she responded with like, this is really cool, but I don't know anything about filmmaking yet. And I was like,
Yes.
well, I made a
Oh.
film once with a team of people. It's horrible. It was a horrible experience. It was very grueling, and I said I'd never do it again.
Right.
But these are the things that you could do a film on. And now
Yeah.
that has come to, we're doing this. We're going to do this.
Wow.
So my
The
husband is
universe
sitting
has
here at
presented it,
coffee. Yeah.
and
My,
you
my husband at
and you're
coffee
like,
is just like, no, what? Why do you guys do these things? Because I know halfway through it, I'm going to be going, why are we doing this? This is a terrible
hell.
idea.
Well, wow, that is
So.
exciting. So congratulations on the things that you have finished. And this is going to be a new frontier, and you will, I'm sure you'll
Maybe.
smash it.
Yes, well, I'm sure we'll do
Yeah.
it because we're just that insane that this is
That's
probably really
awesome.
going to happen. Doesn't mean it's going to happen
Yeah.
well. Doesn't mean it's a great novel or a great screenplay.
I don't
It's
let
just
that
fun.
stop me in my life.
Yeah, you have great poetry though, and I got to
You're
say,
too kind.
kicking ass on the poetry books this year. You are at, how many poetry books do you have right now?
Okay, I have been unleashing perhaps years worth of poetry on
Unleashing
the
is
world.
really good.
It's
This is like
it's
what, like
pretty cool.
a decade of
Yeah.
poetry.
Well, yeah, I released like 10 years ago was The Eye of Tony Hicks under the Beatnik Housewife. And then I kind of was writing a lot. I was writing a lot about, 8 or 9 years ago because I was doing this thing. I'd read this woman, Helen Phillips, had said she was doing all year long, read a poem, write a poem every day. And I did that for 2 or 3 years. So I had a lot of
Oh
stuff.
wow,
And
yeah.
not all of it good, of course. And some of it I messed with. But anyway, I released what do we call it? Ordeal and French Lipstick in April for National Poetry Month. And that was like kind of my mother dying and dealing with that. And then in May, I released Art Wraiths, which was like, my love songs to all the post-punks and British invasion. And then let's see, after that I don't even remember. I'm going to look on the shelf and cheat. Well, somewhere in there was Electrified Corset and Transfusion Poetica. I think those were the ones. And then I just released A Howling Breakfast of Moon Soda, which if you've been kind of on our, trail during our poetry times, this is 4 chapbooks, and 3 of them you will already know because back in April I did some hand stitched chapbooks, which were Hot Soda, Moon Devoured, and then the breakfast poetry that I read out loud every day of April 2022. It's called Maple Syrup Collides with Ham. So those are in here, plus an additional one called A Psychophonic Howling, because I'm like fascinated with the psychophone. There's this, I'll find the picture of it because I carved it. I did a lot of block printed illustrations in this, and not entirely, but a lot, because I really enjoy doing block print. But I did like a print of the psychophone, which was a
Oh.
contraption. There was this show on PBS called History Detectives, and there was just one where these people found this contraption like at an auction, and it said the psychophone on it. And so they were like, hey, couldn't this be, I don't know if they said it or the History Detective said it, but couldn't this be this invention that Thomas Edison said he was going to invent, which was a spirit phone to talk to the dead or to record their voices? And it turns out if Edison makes it, his name is on it big. So it's not an Edison, but it was a man whose last name was, I think, Salinger or something like that. It's in here. If I could find the page, I'd tell you. But he invented it to be a sleep talking machine, like to sort of hypnotize you or influence your mind while you sleep for self-improvement. And they found some of the like cylinders or whatever it played, and it'd be like, your hair is lustrous and full,
Oh,
also
wow.
things like how to improve, I guess things like earning money and influencing. I don't know.
That's
so
so
anyway,
funny and cool.
yeah. The fourth one is sometimes there are moments, and I was telling you I was going to tell this story and I hadn't told you, but I just made allusion to it. When I'm about to release a collection of poetry, I'm so pumped and I'm so like into getting it together and putting in the illustrations, and I'm just like, yay! And then like the day after I release it, I'm like, oh, it's boring and it's crap and oh well, that's what it is. At least the cover looks cool. This time I was like so excited about this, and because I had revisited, I really enjoyed writing, especially Hot Soda and Moon Devoured, whereas the breakfast one, I had written those poems over several years. I've always been obsessed with breakfast. But and then the last collection, I was like, yeah, this is cool. I'll go ahead and release this too. And then after I did it, I didn't have the like, oh no, they're boring. There were a few poems in Psychophonic Howling where I went too far. Like one of them has the F word right in the title, you guys. This is me, okay? Your Christian friend, Amy, the hot poet, has put the F word in a title because I was really mad that day. And I was taking a walk and I'm like, the title of this is fucking poetry, and stuff like that. So I was feeling judgmental toward myself about that. I was like, there's one where I kind of call out my husband on something, which is like, he doesn't read my poetry. I might as well. I want him to read it. I want everyone to read it. And he's like, I'm afraid if I read it, you will have called me out on something, which I've done many times, but never publicly, right? So stuff like that. This is one I released. And so it's kind of like, I was like, oh, ooh, did I go too far? Will I be judged on this on Judgment Day or what have you? And so the thing was, I was watching Dickinson because like I said, we're watching For All Mankind, which is that astronaut show. It's on Apple Plus. My husband ordered Apple Plus just for a month so we could watch For All Mankind because he really likes it. And the benefit is season 3 of Dickinson, about Emily Dickinson's life, but kind of jazzed up. They like use contemporary language and music, and everyone's young and hot, so it's fun.
It's like real life.
Right. There is another version on Prime that Gina told me about that I enjoyed actually a lot more because she was looking like she was our age, and it was a lot about her poetry and about how somebody who took care of her poetic legacy after she died erased all the Tassou stuff so that nobody would know that she was in love with her sister-in-law and stuff like that, and they were in love together. But anyway, so I really enjoyed that one. But I do enjoy Dickinson, and I will say there was an episode where she is reading Leaves of Grass in her little greenhouse. Leaves of Grass by Walt Whitman. It was a hot item at the time because people loved poetry back then. There was no Apple Plus or Halo or whatever.
They were forced to love it. There was nothing else to love.
There was nothing else. So they're loving the poetry and they're loving Walt Whitman because he was such a free voice. And she's reading it just about like collapsing with like ecstasy in her greenhouse over his poetry, she starts to imagine that she has tracked him down during the Civil War. He was working in a war hospital so that he could caress the brows of all those beautiful soldiers, Walt Whitman. So anyway, in this fantasy she's having, they go to this like nightclub bar, and maybe it really happened, but I think she just didn't go that many places, so I don't think it happened. I think she was imagining it because it would show between back and forth. She's in the greenhouse, she's in the club, and so Walt is telling her, about all this stuff, all his philosophy of life, and she's like, "But my poetry, is my poetry okay?" He's like, "No, do not think, just feel." Write it. And I'm like, oh great, that's like my philosophy. That's my unintentional, that's how I live and breathe, is to feel everything and then barf it out in poetry. So Walt Whitman came along, put a tiara on me, and like shoved me out into the world and was like, yes, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. So thank you,
awesome.
Dickinson. And so anyway, if you dare, you can get a Howling Breakfast of Moon Soda on Amazon at this time. It is Kindle Unlimited if you just want to read the poetry. I can never get the ebook format to look right. Sorry about that. I do what the Papyrus author tells me to do. I do what Kindle publishing tells me to do, and it always comes out weird, where like the caption for the picture is on the next page, or but you can see the pictures and read the poetry. But man, I think the book turned out cool, and it's 158 pages. Like it's got a spine with a word, because it's 4 chapbooks. And so I had a lot of fun like block printing the covers and making like these shapes and then using them in different ways and putting other prints in pop bottles, because I carved a bunch of pop bottles and stuff like that. So I'm excited about it, and you'll know the truth about me, and you'll be like, holy cow, I'm glad I don't live at her house, because she's like, whoa.
Now, I think we all knew that already. I mean, anybody who's been watching Cake and Hyperbull knows you don't want to live with us. Not really.
I'm just not that steady, I mean, I am in the one, I feed the family and get my son where he needs to go, but also sometimes I'm like, why life? Oh my gosh, and stuff. But it's fun.
That's too funny.
Yeah. So get in there. Oh yeah, I'll flip through. I'll show I showed you the Psycho phone. This was the alternate cover, the moon with a bottle of pop and stuff like that. And so there's a lot of carvings, and that moon that was, the funny face, Klaus Bormann's eye and lips. That's the secret that you know from watching Cake and Hyperbull. Because all I called it was Moon Muse. I didn't say that's Klaus's eye and lips, because I used to carve facial features of Klaus Bormann like a couple of years ago, and it kept me sane. Perry Mason, that's an embroidery hoop one. So there's a lot of
that's so cool.
A lot of chill fun and a lot of unchill fun in there that will make you, like when I read the biographies of certain rock stars, reading that 4th chapbook is going to make you feel like a better person, because you're going to be like, well, at least I'm not that much of a scene. So there you go. That's my gift to you.
Yeah, I have to get that, because you just came out with that like this week, right? Or something?
This came out, yeah. My intention was September 1st, but I wanted a copy to flash around here. And so like I pay full price for a copy, because the author copies take a couple of weeks. So I was like, I published it on Tuesday, ordered it on Wednesday, because it was then available. And so then I bought so yeah, it was technically out there on Wednesday, but I haven't been saying anything about it, because I think I don't know why, because I was doing other stuff. I have this podcast. I'll talk about that later. So there's a heck of a lot happening, just, way under the radar of the world, but I'm here to tell you about it. So there we go.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is awesome. I have to get that.
Thank you.
Psychophone. Going back to Psychophone, though, that is super interesting. I legit pictured like Norman Bates, the phone he uses, going, well, that'd be a cool collectible, but I would assume it would just work like a regular phone. And then you say what it is, and I'm like, Psychophone sounds amazing.
I know, it sounds so cool, and I have to, in my mind, like entwine it with the fact that the people who bought it, or the history detective, were like, is this the spirit phone for Thomas Edison wanted to record the words of the dead? I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so much story in one object that I'm just so into it. Yeah.
Speaking of dead people, one of my favorite facts about the dead is somebody, and I cannot remember the scientist's name, but he had this super, super sensitive scale system. Yeah. And I don't know all the details. I'm sure this was probably like gray area ethics, but he would have people die on the
Yes.
table and weigh them, and the soul has a discernible weight. And I
Is
always
it
thought
3
that
ounces? Something like 3
something
ounces or
like, yeah, it's
something.
not
Yeah.
heavy, but yeah, when at the point of death, they
Yeah.
would be lighter. And so we always
Yeah.
say that kind of stuff, like, oh,
Mhm.
I can't remember what the phrases are, but we talk about, like, they're lifting up, and
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like there is actually a phrase to talk about you being lightened or something
Oh,
as you
wow.
die or
I gotta
something.
find that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
have to remember what that is. But yeah, so I always just think that is amazing. There really is a soul. I
Yeah.
think I know where it is. My theory, and
Uh-huh.
this goes into a little bit of like Trinity and all that kind of stuff, because
Mhm.
three, the number three, I almost said the letter three. This
Yeah.
is why they wouldn't let me on Sesame Street.
Aw.
Dang it.
Aw.
The three is such a significant number for many cultures and belief systems. The Trinity is like all
Yeah.
over the place. So
Right.
the other day I was looking at something, and the pineal gland, of course, is supposed to be the seat of the soul.
Okay.
And it's a third eye, but literally it has photoreceptors in it. So it reacts to light. And
Neat.
scientists are saying at one time they feel like it was an eye, like we actually maybe had like a
Mm.
cyclops eye or something.
Mhm.
So the pineal gland is actually pretty important. And then there's these other two glands that mirror it, and they're on the hippocampus, and I cannot remember what they're called ever.
Yeah.
So it's like a little triangle in your head. And
Yeah.
the other glands, the reason why I was reading about them is because they found out that people that have, like psychotic people that have no
Yeah.
remorse or empathy, those glands are damaged in them. So that is where your morality is
Oh.
held, you could
Mhm.
say, like your empathy and morality. So in my mind, I was thinking of all the, like, say, religions and spiritual practices and stuff often talk about the three being one is a common
Yeah.
theme.
Mhm.
The Trinity, are one, and all that kind of thing, and that Godhood is within us,
Yeah.
is also a common thing, and that we
Right.
are God, it not in the way of the supreme, one being, but that just we have that seed in us. And then
Yeah.
it was like, and we're created in the image and all this. And I was like, oh, that's these three glands. That is the Trinity within
Ooh.
us, because it's literally where the soul is housed.
Like the
And
self. Mhm.
yeah, so if you take those out, I bet those weigh 3 ounces.
Oh my gosh, that's excellent. Oh,
And Lisa, aka Nina, points out there are 3 people watching this on YouTube at this moment.
man.
The Trinity is within you.
That's right. Now we have started our philosophy of living. Join
Yeah.
us.
So that's
I
something
would
that I've
I love
really,
that.
yeah, I've been sitting there digging into it. The weird thing is, now conspiracy theories, people say like fluoride is in our water because
Right.
it causes your pineal gland to calcify. And that is just a
Oh.
fact. But the,
Mhm.
the conspiracy is that the governments are putting it in the water on purpose to calcify the pineal gland, because then you lose your connection to divinity, whatever that divinity is, and your
Oh, like the
ability
ancient
to,
ways.
intuition. You
Mhm.
lose that
Mhm.
connection to your intuition, because that's also where intuition comes from, is the pineal gland,
Ooh.
which the Egyptians super prized, and they had it in their art all over the place.
Yeah.
And that's the third eye and the Indian, like from India kind of stuff.
Yes.
But I was
That
going somewhere with
chakra.
that. Oh yeah. So, anyways, I started trying to look up maps of the brain. Like, where are
Yeah.
these two glands that I can never remember the name of
Right.
versus the pineal gland? Like, I'm just interested. Do they have an interesting pattern, going into like sacred geometry and stuff? Is there something there? What do they look like?
Yeah.
And the weirdest thing to me is I couldn't find a single image. I think I did find one that I saved that had all 3 on it. Normally, they don't even mention the 2 whose name I can't remember.
Right.
Um, like, they're just not even there. And everybody has a different idea of what the pineal and these glands look like. I've seen it called a pea, like it looks like a pea. It
Right.
looks like an almond. It's like a little pineapple. That's why they call it the pineal gland.
Pineapple gland. Yeah.
It's, all these things. I'm like, well, we've cut into brains, right? Like, we do actually
Yeah.
know what it looks like. Why is it
Does it look
different for everybody?
That's what I
Or
was gonna say. Yeah. weird.
Yeah, so
Or
now I
is
have
it
this
just
whole
hidden? Yeah,
yeah,
hidden
or have
knowledge.
we seen it? Or is it
We're
real?
just
Like,
we're not allowed to know, or whatever, and I love there's this podcast I love called Medicine Stories, and it's written by, I mean, it's written and done by an herbalist who sells herbal infused oil and like tinctures or elixirs and stuff like that. And I love her stuff because it's like and then she like refers you to her herbal teacher who has a class on this. And I bought the class last year for my birthday and I've only done part of it. I need to sit down and do the rest. It just tells you how to infuse oil for medicine purposes. You
mhm,
just rub it on your body and it does all these great things for you. But she is so big on all of this, like what she just calls remembering. It's like
yeah,
all of these things that our ancient selves or our ancient, like our ancestors and stuff, knew and intuited and things like that, and how we've lost it because of our, I don't know, concrete world
yeah,
and corporate this and that and everything. And so it's just a lot of it's been lost because how we've done our environment and how we think about things or choose to think about things or go along with thinking about things. And so yeah, I've been like, I actually just ordered a couple of books where, I don't think they're hippy dippy. I think they're more like historical. This is how witches were viewed, for one thing,
mhm,
and because it's Halloween is coming and I love to read stuff like that. But also this woman who's a poet, and I think her first name is Kiki and her last name starts with a P. So it's but I can't remember her name, but it's called Witch Wife. I sound like I'm like all into it, but I'm just saying that I just think it's more like it's a misunderstood word,
yeah,
in like Halloween and Christian culture for sure, and stuff. And I just think it means the people who help you with the wisdom
mhm,
and the nature and the what it has to offer and things like that. And so I know that there's things that they know and that is not remembered
yeah.
by much of our culture. And so I'm gonna read about
And
that, see
there
what's
is a
what.
connection there, and I want that book now.
Yeah,
I will
yeah,
say, even though the word witch for me is a very emotionally
mhm,
fraught word with much
yeah,
history, because I
yes.
grew up with my parents calling me a witch for
Ooh.
like when I was just a kid, but it was super negative.
They
And
didn't
it's
mean it nice.
because,
Yeah.
yeah, they did. It was justified. I did a lot of weird things as a kid. I would have, like, in second grade, I was writing horror stories and I was having seances in my room, though I didn't know what it
Right.
was at that time. And I just did a lot of really weird stuff like that naturally. But
But
because it was
that's
such
where
a
you
negative thing,
right. That's where you start a discussion with your kid and you're like, so what justice?
yeah,
What's going
what's she
on?
doing? Oh, having a seance. What are you doing?
Hmm.
Oh, I'm connecting to the voices that nobody can hear.
Oh, and so then, they could be like,
Hmm.
"Oh, okay. Some ancient forgotten things that I don't
Yeah.
understand,"
Or psychosis. Either way, we should
Right.
like look into this.
Right. Because there are psychoses. My husband's a therapist where he's like, we do a lot of hippy dippy stuff, and he's like, a lot of this medicine is not necessary. It is in a percentage of people, but he's like, but with schizophrenia, they need that medicine or they are not going to survive or
Yeah.
they're going to harm people or they're going to harm themselves probably, like,
Yeah.
that is. And so it's like, yeah, sure, that's a
Yeah.
possibility too, but yeah, but you also could just be tuned in a way that has
Yeah.
been forgotten by a lot of people.
Well,
So yeah.
I do know that, like, now I've come to grips with it, and now
Mhm.
you could even say witch, and I won't get, like, insulted, though
Yeah.
I do prefer practitioner. But, it really is, like, it's gotten to the point where I've been about 5 or 6 years ago, I got called, I guess. It was actually the poster that is hanging over here that I talk about
Yes.
all the time. I think I've probably
Is it the
given
one
you a
with the
copy.
ladder that you get? Yeah, you gave me a copy. I'm
It is,
looking at it
yeah.
right now.
That's so
Yeah.
funny. Yeah, I've passed that poster out so much. Might as well be a
It's cool.
politician because I will pass that stuff out. But yeah, and
It's
then
so
that
cool.
took me on this crazy journey that I won't even get into all the details here, but it involved like people just coming up and saying things like, for instance, at the Renaissance Fair, I was standing there selling absinthe with it, not drinking the absinthe. This is an important part of
Oh,
this,
yeah. Yeah.
just
Yeah.
selling it for a friend, da da da. And I was thinking about how in the Bible it talks about us, the God figure refers to himself in multiple, you know,
Yes.
We created in
Mhm.
our image, like
Right.
that kind of thing. So I was thinking about this, like,
Yeah.
and I've read the Bible, and I
Mhm.
have been Christian. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I still consider myself Christian in a way, like
Right.
Christian friendly or open to
It's
all
like,
of it.
yeah, in
I
a
think
way,
it's
it's
all
part of
facets
you.
of
Yeah.
one thing,
Mhm. Mhm. I
and
think that our culture has made it weird,
yeah.
and people have gotten involved and changed some things for their own benefit,
Oh yeah. Yeah. So I
and
feel like
whatnot.
there's a truth, and that all
Mhm.
the religions are aspects of that truth.
Yeah,
You
yeah, I've
know.
had that same thought. Mhm.
Yeah. So that's what I was doing, is I was thinking about that thing of like, well, who is we? Is that
Right,
aliens? Yes,
right.
or
Yeah,
ghosts, or like,
some
I'm
say,
going all
yeah.
over the place with that. This guy comes up, walks directly to me. Have I told you this story?
I have not heard this.
Okay, all right, because I don't want to bore you.
Nope. I don't think it would bore me anyway, but go ahead,
This
continue.
guy comes up, and I will preface this where I have seen this type of person, like, I will say 4 times. I think it's 4 times. He's the 4th. Or maybe
Okay.
no, I think he's actually the 3rd time. 3. No.
Is he like the watchers in Fringe that are always there at some sort of important moment? What type of
Maybe.
person is this? Like, are
Oh,
they
I will
men in
say,
black?
I wanna
Okay.
say angelic,
Oh.
because the feeling that comes from these people, which twice it was the same guy, and I think this guy was the 3rd guy like this,
Whoa.
but it's always this amazing feeling of, like, I'm not gonna say I'm not a lovable person, but I'm not like a people person. So
Okay.
normally people don't come up to me and I'm like, "Oh, I love you." Like, this is not my typical reaction. Even cute guys, it was more like,
Present company excluded, of course.
yeah, exactly, except for Amy. When I first
That's
saw
right.
Amy, it was like, "Oh, you're crazy." I love it.
I know. Okay, but anyway, continue. So
Okay.
what did this visitor
So,
do?
yeah, so that was my feeling. Guy walks directly up to me. He looks like a leprechaun. I will kid you not. He's my
Right,
height, which is not
right.
usual for a man. He's got this little, like, leprechaun-y beard. And he just walks directly to me. I swear, says, "You know what you're thinking is right." And I was like, and I didn't even think of what I'm thinking. I thought, is this a pickup line? Like, what I'm thinking is I need to have a drink with you, or I need to, like, go sell my absinthe, or I need to whatever, like, unlace my corset because it's so tight.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
courses.
This was my reaction, is like, yeah, whatever, I'm
Right.
thinking. And
Sure.
so I replied, "Oh, I don't think so," or something.
Yeah,
And he
yeah.
said, because who would think that I'm thinking that? It's the,
Right.
who did God mean when he said we? Who are these we? And he
At the
says,
Renaissance
no.
Festival.
Yeah, he says, "No, there is more than one God." It's just different religions tend to
Interesting.
adopt the da 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 da. And yeah, because in the Bible it says, the we we're referring
Mhm,
to was not a
mhm.
mistranslation. So he's telling me this. This is my face. What the flying hell is going on?
Oh my
So he
goodness, I have a
because it's like,
poem to do with
yeah.
that. Go ahead.
So then he tells me, like, so you're on the right track. Keep at it. And I had just kind of did this thing where I was like, I feel like I'm on a track, like I'm on this mission of this discovery, like these things just
Yeah.
keep popping up like this. So he says, "You're on the right track, keep going with this line of thought." So then I'm like, is everybody seeing this? Like, am I hallucinating? So I turned and I looked in the booth to see if either, like, my husband was working with me, or the guy that owned the booth is, like, seeing this, like. And so I look at them, I look back, he's gone. But I mean,
Mystery.
it's in a crowd. It is a crowded Renaissance
Right.
festival, but at that point, there was kind of like a lot of space around the booth. It was like early afternoon, so people were like drinking now and stuff. So I'm like, he's a really fast disappear. Like, he really. So that was one of the weird things, and there were so many of, like, me talking to somebody. Go talk to this person is the impulse, and I would, and they'd be like, "Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. So you need to go here," and I'd be like,
Oh,
"Whoa!"
wow. It's like,
So
you know what? I have to say, I've spent this year, as you know, because we've talked about things, it's been like really weird. Like for me, in like, what am I supposed to be doing?
mhm.
I do a lot of art, I do a lot of poetry. It is somehow not satisfactory in the sense that my husband worries a lot about money, and so I'm gonna like, oh, that's another funny story. I'm gonna try and do substitute teaching, but it has taken so long to get my background check completed. This is funny. The funny part is Oh, that was something I was supposed to initiate, and I just figured that out. But I was like, "Oh crap! Did they find out I have a podcast and a couple of poetry shows and a whole bunch of poetry? And are they like, we're gonna read through all this?" And no, you've been kicked out by the system. And I'll be like, "Okay, great. Sorry, sunshine. I've been kicked out by the system for being a subversive poet." But anyway, there's been just a lot of question about that, and it sounds like your life is like what I would have just like a few months ago. I'm in a it's a good day. It's a good month. It's a good time right now. But there were times in the summer that if you had told me that, I would have been like, "Why, Lord? Why is she on a journey where she is being led and told where to go?" And I'm just like, "Ah!" So I think that's really cool though. That's
Um,
really
but you
cool.
are on that journey. You
Well, I'm
are
talking
on
to
that
you.
same journey. Yeah. No, you are on that. I think a lot of us are being like, okay, here it gets a little weird. I feel
Yeah.
like the last couple years, a lot of us are kind of like waking up or kind of going
Yeah.
like,
Yes.
wait a second.
Yes.
And it could just be like the 70s all over again. All of a sudden, we're all
Could be.
hippies, you know?
Maybe.
But
I'm
I
for that.
really, yeah, over and over, I'm talking to people who are looking at everything in their life and just kind of going, this is not what I need to be doing. There's
Uh-huh.
something else, and I can't quite put my finger on it.
Right.
And so I feel like, you are on this journey. And
Yes.
at many point, this is the end of my 5 years where I finally figured it out and it's all come
Uh-huh.
together. But at
Yep.
the beginning, I was going, "What the hell is going on?" What the I'm so frustrated by this.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, it is it's so bizarre. It's like what I sensed when we went to Yosemite for one day back in 2017 because we spent a whole bunch of time in San Francisco and we only had the chance to do like 24 hours in Yosemite. And what I learned while I was there, besides like, wow, it's really awesome and I'm terrified. They told us so much about bears. Bears was the one thing they told us. Don't leave food or even flavored chapstick in your car because they'll go for it and all this stuff. So I was sure that we were going to be eaten by a bear, which we were not. But I will say that I bought a book called Death in Yosemite, written by park rangers. This is how people have died here. So know that because this is how this one could have been prevented. Now, if it was a lightning strike or a tree fall, that can't always be, or a rock fall, you can't always prevent that. But he's like, there's this syndrome for guys who are like ages, 16 to 27, where they just don't hook things up right because they're cavalier and invincible. And there's that syndrome, like kind of a frat boy syndrome, so to speak. No offense if you were in a frat, but just like invincibility when they will die because they weren't careful with this or that. But what I learned was they turn you loose in this park. They tell you about bears and how to keep your food, but everything else is on you. It's just like that's how life feels. It's like I don't feel like it's all that. I don't go around with an impending sense of danger all the time, but it's weird how we just show up here. You're born, you're released into the world and you're like I could do what I choose to do now. And it's weird. I like it, but also it's overwhelming at times. It's like,
it
what
is.
did I be
It is.
doing? Oh my gosh.
Well, and I think that's why it's so important to have the pineal gland and that connection to
Hmm.
intuition because
Yep.
it is a guide. Like it
Yes.
does guide us. It's what tells us like don't go there, don't go in that room. Danger
Right.
will happen,
Yes. Oh
So,
man. Don't go on
yeah.
that plane. That's me on every plane. Then I've been fine, but still.
Well,
Okay,
you said you had a poem about
I
that,
will.
right?
This
I
is
was like,
a
we should
little
do
bit.
poetry.
In my mind, it might be. I guess we'll see. I don't know where I put my glasses. I'm gonna wing it. It doesn't have a title. A lot of them don't. But here's how it goes. Are any of us right about you, God? Tell me about the junk DNA over this scramble. Breakfast buffet scramble. Tell me about the DNA scramble over this junk. Try not to imagine the beautiful German poet who had that DNA dream and told it sleep jumbled into a tape recorder. What I like about this place, the coffee keeps it coming. The scramble don't skimp on the sausage. Yes, I've done it. I've circled back to the beloved breakfast buffet. I have, and nostalgia grafted in an order of Waffle-O's cereal. If there were a way to tell you my immaculate taste memory, down to the aerated maple-line crunch of that cereal, looking out the upstairs window as the school bus rolls by, it's 1980 and we are leaving town for my great grandpa's funeral. I must get back to my Waffle-O's. But that ability to transmit my personal genius of a Mapleoid corn crunch taste untasted in 40 years, would exist in the realm of junk DNA. Try not to picture the beautiful German poet. That would exist in the realm of an ability once given us, but here no longer. Only that some people dream in premonitions and experience clairvoyance and other clarities. I ask because these are theories I overheard. Does a spellbinding musician access the so called junk DNA when he enters our dreams intentionally? When he, by way of existence, thrusts us over cliffs into ambrosial, glittered marshmallow and angel song? Shush, I self chastise, as I have already written that volume of poetry single handedly of artist ecstasy. Artist ecstasy. I must return to the buffet for an additional scoop of the scramble. So that's just about like there's like abilities and things that may have
Mhm.
just been there that are forgotten. And so
Yeah.
that's an interesting to me thought to like and dwell on like
Oh
the
yeah.
language and what's been lost in the language and how the language is fractured and fragmented and you know inadequate to express, and things like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that one.
I like
Hmm.
that. And you're
Oh, thank
getting
you.
plenty of applause from the audience, from our listeners. I'm trying to flash it up. I want to
I'll
go
put my
back
chair
to
on.
a hilarious conversation that was happening in chat while we were talking.
Okie doke.
Back when we were talking about the pineal gland, we had Lisa and Nina say we just need a corpse so that we can find out what the glands are called, what they look like, and everything just definitively.
Like Da
Lee
Vinci did.
volunteered. Here's the proof. Lee volunteered to be this corpse. So I'm pretty sure we can find out where Lee lives. Nina, Lisa might rat him out. Pete officially passes on being the corpse. He does not want to volunteer for that. Yeah, so there's just I'm just flashing up the comments now. It was a pretty hilarious conversation. But
Oh, that is so funny. That righteous
that,
beard.
Pete cannot be the corpse because of the beard. So yep. And he calls it a skunk beard. And yeah, it's so I was like, this is awesome because we now have a pineal gland that we can explore and experiment on. You're getting compliments on your tiara.
Oh, thank you. I mean, it was my poetry month one.
Yeah.
I will say this. There's a joke at our house that nobody appreciates, but hilarious me, of course. And that is, well, when I'm dead, why don't you just blah, blah, blah? It's like, because I have this funny, hilarious assumption that I'm going to be the first to die because my husband's family has a lot of longevity and my family has less of that. I have a grandfather I take after who lived to be 85, but everybody else, like my grandparents, like died in their 40s and 50s and stuff. And my parents died at like 69 and 74, which is getting better. But it's like, so when I make that joke, they hate it. But I'm like, hey, if I go first, you guys can have my pineal gland. So there you go. You're all gonna bury me. It's cool. It's cool. I'm looking forward to the next chapter. I love it here too. I'm gonna try not to haunt. We were talking about, I was listening to Mysterious Universe about sometimes if you're too attached to material things, you might get stuck on this plane when you die. I'm like, well, there I go. I'm going to be in the box with the Halloween mugs because I was putting up my Halloween mugs. But anyway, I'll try not to do that and move on to whatever
that's
next
okay.
thing is.
Your husband might think I'm a bit weird because I'll come over and go, can I have Amy's Halloween mugs? Because I know how attached she was to them.
That's right.
I have the
and
Ouija
her
board.
pineal gland. Yeah.
And I just want the pineal gland.
Okay, I just developed a theory right now that he's going to be so bereft that he'll just go for it.
Yeah, he'll be like, I don't even know what you're talking about, but my heart is broken. So just
yeah,
do your weird poet stuff.
He'll be like, heck with that. It's finally quiet around here. Take him. Says him. He's more of a talker than I am, if you can believe it.
See, now I know what I'm going to be doing at the body farm because I am going to the body farm next spring.
That's right.
And that's, if you don't know, it is in Tennessee. Oh, and there goes my alarm. It's body farm time.
There she goes.
At 3. I don't know why I have an alarm set at 3, but there you go.
Somebody guided you to that setting right there.
Yeah, about 2 weeks ago because I keep forgetting to undo it. But
well, yeah.
Yeah, but the body farm, you can go there and you pay like $600, totally worth it. And you dig up basically bodies with the police. They run you through a forensics course, and it's real bodies, people, real bodies. So I call this research, not morbid weirdness.
No,
but
somebody's got to find it out.
Yeah, it's important to know, to be able to look at a rotting corpse and determine what stage, like how it died and what
Mhm.
stage of the
Like
rotting
decomposition.
decomposition.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
decomposition it is. Which, fun fact, fun being, fun in quotes,
Yeah.
the
Which
first
kind of
thing to decompose on a body is the larynx. So our voice. The last thing to
Whoa.
decompose on a body is the uterus.
Awesome.
I know, right? How interesting is that?
I
And
like it.
and Lee says he wants to go to the body farm. I am doing a trip in spring. Anybody who wants to go hunt bodies with me is welcome to go. I think it's me and Francis so far, but it is open to anybody who wants to do this. I declare a field trip.
Mm.
Let's go dig up some pineal glands.
That's what I was going to say. There's your access to pineal gland. I will right here or just make it be known that I'll be sitting by my little fireplace waiting to hear the stories afterward, told in a way that I won't like. What probably my biggest fear, if you listen to my podcast and you heard the episode Beautiful Tuesday, probably my biggest fear is that somebody else will vomit and I will see it. And
Oh, right.
hear it, all the
And
things it does.
And
Yeah.
I will say vomiting is probably, because apparently you're pulling bodies out of water and like
Yeah.
all stages. So I'm going to say vomiting could probably happen.
And it's your body saying, uh-oh, you know what? Don't touch that. But you know what you're doing. You're doing it for a reason. But your body, like years and years of its wiring is just like, danger, danger. And
Yes.
so okay, good. I will, you can tell me.
There
I
will
don't care
be
if you
no
tell me
judgment.
Thank you. You tell me the vomit count that I will want to know. It's like for some reason I have to tally these things, and if you threw up in school when you were a kid, which my kid did when he was in first grade, and he's like the best kid in the whole wide world. But it's like if I was in your class, I'd be like for the rest of my life, I'd be like, oh, Kevin, who threw up outside the girls' bathroom, and we all had to tiptoe around, So there's a sickness in here, a mental trauma sitting in the back seat of the car with my sister who. Everybody in my family of 4 growing up, that was their body's response to, what do you got? I'm going to throw up about it. And not me, but I was definitely around when it happened. And now I'm damaged. But anyway, there we are. So please don't use it against me. That's what I always say. Because some people will be like, oh, like you guys used to do, in your pranks when you ran with that crowd.
Oh, yes. Yes. Back when I was not as nice a person.
Well, to some people, that's really funny.
I thought it was hilarious.
If you're not emetophobic, why would you think anybody was? When I hear about phobias that I like, people who are at the phobia of the gas station bathroom, I would never have thought of that. I don't love them, but so yeah.
That's probably why we're friends, because I have such a hard time throwing up. The time that I can remember throwing up was when I drank Ipecac syrup as a kid to see if it really would do that. It does. I don't advise it. Speaking of things like halfway through, you're like, this was a really bad idea.
Oh,
drinking Ipecac syrup was pretty painful. And apparently you're not supposed to drink the whole bottle. So
oh God, there is a book called Little Girl Blue about Karen Carpenter. That's what took her. Everyone's like, oh, she died of anorexia. The truth is she was healing from that, had put on enough weight to be all right. But at Thanksgiving, she was using Ipecac. And because she had used it in the past, you're supposed to use it like once or twice in your life. It's just like, it's emergency poisoning, something like that. Mm-hmm. It dissolves your heart muscle. And that is what took Karen Carpenter. So everybody beware, okay? It's okay to be plush and the Renaissance kind of beautiful and, soft and cuddly for your grandchildren. It's okay. You have the permission of the hot poet to not be a skeleton anymore.
Yes. And with famine knocking at all of our doors.
Yes.
Hey, it's a good thing.
It's good to have some padding. That's right. That's right. A little cushion of just extra. I hear that.
All right, I'm going to finish that for the pushing. Amy is too nice to say that, but I'm going to say it.
Well,
cushion for the pushing.
No, I hadn't thought of that. I like it.
All right. Well, back to poetry. And we also have a video from Pete. And I think because we are running out-ish of time, I'm not like in a rush. I'm going to finish with that. So just don't let me forget. Like I'll send us out on Pete's poetry.
Cool. Do you have one of your own to read?
I do. And I know you have poetry too. And we have just
got one more
talked all over. Let's see. I've got... All right, I'll read this one. This is for a collection I'm working on with, which we're also got to start our collection soon.
Yeah,
Golden
our golden
Shovels.
shovels. Yeah,
Still on my list.
I
I've not
love
forgotten.
those.
I just
Same
keep
here.
putting all this other weird stuff in, like, oh, we should do a movie. That's a good idea.
My gosh, you got to live life while you're here, man. Golden shovels. I could probably write if I do some lines vertically. I could probably write some at the Santa Calagon tonight.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, that was
And I'm
bold, but
probably
we'll
going to be walking down there to see you. You
see.
know, I will probably try to
I
walk
hope
down
we're in
there.
that same
So,
shady parking lot. That would be wonderful. I would love that. Okay.
yeah. All right. So this is another poetry collection I'm with 4 poets: Francis Lupi Ippolito, Danby Fierce, and Maxwell I. Gold. And so we're
Mhm.
supposed to be we're counting down from the final hour of, like, say, like the apocalypse, and we each took a horseman, and that's our section. And
Ah,
so I was selected to be deaf. I was like,
why?
just take, I'll just take whatever you guys don't want, like whatever you give me. And nobody wanted death. And so I think that really they all knew I wanted death. And so, yeah,
Death is the
because
sexiest one.
who
Death.
wouldn't want death? I'm just
I don't
saying.
know. I'm with you.
So,
Okay.
yeah,
Here we
so
go.
I got death. So this is all my poems are going to be about death for this collection. This one is called Sweet Dying of Light.
All right.
Even death needs light, a glimmer of star, a slice of silver sickle, reaping the shadows, harvesting forgotten dreams. Even death craves hope. Your soul is my light, shimmer shine at the edge of night, dewy mares seasoned in the salt brine of weeping, running fast to nowhere, jagged, silent screams, ripping apart your dreams at the seams. You think me your enemy, but I'm a true friend that sticks to the end, cutting dead weight to make you strong. No bold without the cold. There's no brave without trembling. Heroines don't rise from perfect lives, but from ashes. You have because I create have not. In case you forgot, there's no life appreciation for immortals, just endless days. You cannot love what you cannot lose. I take away, you choose. When death was a child, they wished for apocalypse. They wanted to see how lovely the sun as it slips into the night, sweet dying of light.
Ah, so many things I loved about that. The language. I mean, it's like a poetry slam or, kind of like, oh my gosh, that was so
Uh,
great. But also so true. It's like, why do we try? Because we won't always be here and we want to have
mhm.
done something, and experience things. Emily Dickinson she throughout the series Dickinson, which I love, she encounters death. He'll show up in this like ghostly carriage and she'll just go and talk to him. And he was complaining for like the first time in the series because he was uninspired and she was telling him why she did what she did. And it basically came out that, she wanted to be remembered and that she wanted to give people hope. He's like, I inspire you. And it's like that, like what you
Oh,
just
that's
said. It's
funny.
like
Yeah.
death makes us try, and
Yeah. If we
that's
were
something.
immortal, how boring would life be?
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean I'm giving up on my dreams of immortality.
And
No.
vampirism, yeah.
Yeah, and I do mean in the physical, temporal way. I
Mhm,
hopefully
mhm.
plan to be immortal, but we'll see.
We'll
I haven't
see
figured
how
it
it
out yet.
goes.
I have to
But in
eat
the
more
yeah.
pineal glands, apparently. I'm going to
Yeah.
eat all the pineal glands.
Ooh, yeah, there you go. That's the secret, everybody. Uh-oh, our pineal glands are unsafe. Hey, mine's all messed up. You don't want it. But it's like, yeah, I mean, that sense of urgency, like you were like, okay, I'm writing a novel. Okay, I'm gonna do a screenplay. Okay, I'm gonna do a movie. That urgency just would not be there,
Yeah,
for all the
exactly.
things that, hey, I released like 5 books of poetry this year.
This
That
year
urgency wouldn't be
alone.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just had them around. And that's another thought is that it's like, well, when those are done, I'm gonna feel all cleaned out in like the best possible way. Like
Hmm.
that, it's like when I would go through difficult times and I would cut my hair off because I'd be like, that hair belongs to that time, and now we're starting again. And it's kind of like that. And I'm so excited to see like where that's gonna go. What the
I am
heck is
too.
gonna be next? Because
Yeah.
yeah, that's exciting. So
Yeah, I mean, not that I want to say anything good has happened from this pandemic or anything,
mm,
but I think one of the things, and maybe one of the reasons why there is kind of this mass
yeah,
awakening, I'll say, is
yes,
because a lot of us have seen mortality. We were kind of stuck in this
mm,
world of like, you know, Like,
Mhm.
example, I had a friend way back when I was going through my divorce, and she really was not happy with her husband.
Right.
And I don't even know the details of why. I just knew she was very unhappy. And I was going through a divorce, and she made some statement like, "You're so lucky,
Oh,
because you're achieving freedom. And I
right.
wish I could do that." And I was like, well, I wasn't looking at it like that. Really, I was looking at my entire world falling apart and my
Yeah.
heart being ripped out of my chest and everything else. But oh, that's a good way to look at it,
That's the
actually.
perspective. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I said, "Well, you can, though. It's like pretty easy. I can tell you where to get the paperwork. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's pretty doable." And she
Yeah.
said, "Oh, I just can't because we have the boat and this house and this da da da." And she just started listing off worldly possessions.
Oh
That was so
no.
weird to me because I was like,
That is weird.
"But you're saying you're unhappy because of the situation.
Mhm.
But do those make you happy? Apparently not. So just cut everything off. Like, who needs them?"
Yeah,
It
and who
was,
cares if you
yeah,
don't get a share of it, or
yeah.
whatever. Just
So, yeah, I think that's
onward.
where we are right now is
Mhm.
many of us have been that woman, including
Yeah.
me. And we're
Mhm.
going, "Wait, I don't need this stinking boat. I never go out on it anyways. I don't need
Right.
this thing." And that's what we're
Yep.
doing as we're looking at possibly moving to Brazil permanently. Well, I say permanently, but I'll be back and forth.
Yeah.
But I will have no more possessions. And I've done this three
Yeah.
times in my life where I've pretty much gotten rid of everything. And I'm looking around now going, wait, do I need these things? Like I've got all these ingredients that I've been hoarding,
Yeah.
eggs harvested, the shells of eggs ground up from the full moon. And then these are the,
Ooh.
the lunar eclipse egg shells. And this is, these herbs that I've gathered. And that's like, you know what? I'm probably giving them all to Amy. I'm just saying, there she wants some. But yeah,
I'll put him
these
in a painting. Yeah.
yeah, we don't need these things anymore,
Right.
So
Right.
anyways, I've
That's
digressed
that's
again.
interesting. Oh, good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the bottom line is we don't need all this stuff. And I think that's
Mm-mm.
why we're awakening is the pandemic has
Yes,
shown us that.
I do too. Yep. Exactly. And people are like shedding their a lot of I love to make the joke that, oh my gosh, the teacher crisis is not as bad as they say because I didn't get that teaching job at the Summit Ridge Academy. It was
Yeah.
an art teaching job, not certified either. It actually kind of costs them money if they hire me. I get it. And I'm also glad they didn't because look at all the time I've had for art and poetry. I love it. I'm perfectly happy with what I'm doing, but our
Yeah.
house does need it is old. I think what we need financially is like a year of just let's earn some money and fix this house because it's from 1978. My dad was not he grew up really poor. This is my childhood home. He grew up really poor and he's like, if it ain't broke. And so there are a lot of things we fixed, but I mean, there's a lot of things that need fixing. But yeah, it, it's I thought a lot of people are leaving their jobs and like
Hmm.
corporate jobs and teaching jobs because there's a lot of bull crap involved that they're just like enough. I kind
And
of want to
most
be
of it we
more
don't need.
actualized. Nope. No, we don't. I don't remember what this poem is about, but I'll read it. I remember writing it in the gas station parking lot at Quick Trip because I love the Patti Smith thing where she's like, I used to go to the 7-Eleven on Saturdays and I get a glazed donut and a coffee and sit there and find Morocco. I pretended it was Morocco because it looked like she's so great. And she posted a picture of herself with Keanu Reeves yesterday because it was his birthday, which I will always know because of when I was a teenager and I was going to marry him and all that jazz. And that was the Bill and Ted phase. So none of us knew he was going to be so bitchin'. So I like to think I predicted that. But
Predicted the
anyway,
bitches.
I did of Keanu Reeves. But the point is, damn it, Patti Smith. And I think I have a poem about this in the collection I just released. It's like, she's so awesome. And God's like, every time I'm, angry at God because it's just not enough. It's just not enough, God. He's like, what? Oh, I'm sorry. I was listening to a Patti Smith record and giving her more luminescence and glitter because she doesn't have enough. And now look, Amy, she's posing with Keanu Reeves. He looks so bitchin'. And I'm like, Patty, just stop it. Patty's had her own. She's had her own troubles. I'm not gonna begrudge her a picture with Keanu Reeves. But I'll read this poem, whatever it was that I wrote in the gas station parking lot. It's called Ditches Clothed in Morning Glories. Let us read. Ah, the aggressive muscle car engine roar of Independence, Missouri on a gas station Saturday morning, reminding a gal who she is. No San Francisco chosen one, no Seattle fancy pants, No New York City intelligentsia, not even close. Red clogs, purple socks, Halloween ghost t-shirt. These shorts belong to my husband. A moment ago, on the gas station curb with a pink donut, Vienna roast coffee, and book of Patti Smith song lyrics, I thought I saw his dull gray Toyota pull in, prelude to an impromptu donut date on his way to work. But time revealed it was not he. As my twisted soul began its work, twisting his absence into tragedy, I reminded myself he was respecting my art and my gas station donut ritual of twisted soul healing. Little Mercy's bloom, faultless, workhorse morning glories, in pink ice donuts, in Vienna roast coffee, in the cat with his half Siamese daily operas, in ditches clothed in morning glories and Queen Anne's lace, that round little old woman looking spectacular in her pink paisley belly dance pants as she enters the quick trip. Little Mercies bloom by night as moonflowers, in dreams of ancient ways, of fires and weaving and animals birthing, in gifts of wandering song. So I must have been in a mood.
Oh, I love your moods, though.
Oh, well,
I was
thank
just, I
you.
love these moods.
They can be intoxicating, even in the moment, but that is the blessing of poetry. If you are subject to such soul twisted moods, you can be like, you know what? Let's make it a song, dudes. So
Yeah,
it's my advice, or I'd be dead and crazy and both. So
it is therapy, I will say.
oh yeah.
And after the last 2 months when I was like, I have to write this, I am out of control. I have no control over this. I just have to do this thing. I
Mhm.
realized, oh, as much as my entire life I've tried to be like, I'm not one of those artist types. But I have like way more control and like, planning and blah blah blah. Blah, blah, blah. I am.
Emotional control? What's that?
Yeah.
That would be my line.
Yeah. Because the last 2 months I was like, you know what? Everything is shut down. I know I have all these obligations. You're all on hold. Well, the first month I was really sick. Everything was on hold.
Right.
But then the second month was like, I might die tomorrow. I just
Yeah,
survived life. I got to write all this stuff. Everybody, fuck off. But
that's
I'm back
right.
now with apologies. I'm here. I'm working
Hey,
my butt off to catch up.
I think that what you are going to release into the world, we're all going to be grateful. So there
Uh,
you go.
we'll find out. But it's done now, and I am relieved to like have that brain
Yeah.
space. And yeah, no more me pointing my fingers at artists being overtaken by inspiration of like, wow, you're just not being disciplined. I get it.
Oh. Yeah, I know. And that's two schools of thought. Like on the one hand, Nick Cave is like, I get in there and I just sit down and write songs every day, and that's the discipline. On the
Mhm.
other hand, because if you know Nick Cave, I mean, if you hear his music, you're like, man, what? Something birthed that. And then muses just broke into his
Oh
house and
yeah.
made love to him, and wow. I know. My
I
favorite
think
is
it's
the freak
just don't
out,
wait
but
for them. Just make
right.
them come.
The practice of writing will lure
Mhm.
them, and
Yeah.
even if you're writing stuff that, if I'm writing stuff that is boring or garbage and just a terrible, waste of words or paper, then it opens up,
Mhm.
it just will.
Yeah.
It's like the world wants you to do it, and it's going to reward you. Like, I don't
Yeah.
mean people, I just mean whatever's going on out there, in the
Yeah.
air and elements and whatever. So yeah. Yeah, the trees want
Yeah.
it or whatever. So there you go.
Uh,
Oh, cool.
I'm holding back so many comments right now that would probably be inappropriate, but
Yeah, I'm trying to
even
get
for
my
cake and
background.
hyperbole.
I'm trying to get my cleared background check to be a substitute to be substitute teacher of the year. If you ever watch King of the Hill, and Peggy Hill's always like, I was substitute teacher of the year, 1994. I'm like, well, everybody just wait. Here's what I'm gonna
This is
do.
happening.
I'm gonna sit my butt in that chair and I'm gonna do high school, and I'm gonna be like, this is your assignment. The end. You're teenagers, you want to be left alone, and I want to write poetry. If you're not having sex and not fighting each other, which I'm not going to say, I'm going to say that in my mind. I don't want to give them any ideas. But if you're not doing either of those things, you're fine. I don't care what you're doing. Yes, you can have a bathroom pass. Absolutely.
Here, I
I'm
got them
going to draw
lined
a
up on
picture.
my table. Just don't bother me.
I'm doing a portrait of Keanu Reeves right now. Go away. Just sit. Do whatever you want. Get on your phone. What's wrong? Didn't you bring your phone? What are you doing?
Oh,
So,
here's a drawer full of them. Whose is this?
I don't know whose these are or how they got here, but look what I found. Yeah, there you go. Off you go. Yep.
Too awesome.
Substitute teacher of the year.
Well, I think we have gone a half an hour over. Do you have anything else that you want to
That's all. That's all I
Okay.
got. I know we've got one from Pete. Looking
We do
forward
it.
to
We're
it.
going to close out with Pete then and be back.
Awesome.
The link to next month's Halloween cake and Hyperbull is in the links to this description. I think I'm only doing this on YouTube today because, things
Yeah.
been busy and it's been
All right.
crazy. So I forgot to hit all the extra buttons. But so yeah, find that link for next month, which is Halloween. It's one of our mutually favorite holidays of all time. And I
Yes, it is.
suspect that's many people in this chat. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I have nothing else to say. I mean, just it's awesome to be back.
It is great to be back. That should do it. We did it again.
Yeah. All right. I guess we will end with Pete. Thank you, Pete Kelly. Our one of our favorite poets with his skunk beard. Now I know to call it a skunk beard. All right. Thank you, everybody. We will see you next month.
We will.
The Ghost Within. A memory in place, just so, deliberate, upon a mantel shelf inside a house, aging and derelict. A picture blurred, with features faded, in hand a doll held, with innocence eluded. Hand held out, alone in a field, where nothing grows that ever yields. A past destined to revisit, with a man's inheritance, looking confusedly at a moment captured. A trick to the eye, or is memory at play? For he sees the child move. Is it coming his way? His focus consumed, all else is peripheral, unnoticed a darkening of all about him. Warmth turns to a chill, as an invading presence. Without permission comes a loathing intense. Secure, this is fantasy, yet retreating away, falling backwards, though eyes don't sway. As if at a window, pausing to stare, a moment of sadness turns to a glare. As an emergence of a child born, ghostly silent, it falls to the floor. Pulling upon the man, deliberate yet clumsy, heaves this creature of wheezing hideosity. Eyes locked in a still dance, prone to the weighted ghost, the man inhales to scream, drawing it down his throat. Echoing around his mind, a child's accusation. You left me, you left me, shattering all his oblivion. Behind a stare wide open, crowd the memories lost, all vying to be remembered, till his wall is demolished. A light dawns in a mind, as a sun spreads over land. With a new grasp of life, he finds a doll in his hand. Now, upon a mantel shelf, a photo of a field empty. Reawakened is the boy that died from memory. Thank you.